Dave sat down beside me, looked at everyone, and sensed the emotion in the room. He asked if he could read a quote by Toni Morrison. The quote read, "This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There's no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do languages. This is how civilizations heal." I knew then that we'd be okay.
Hey, yo, you ready? Let's do it.
What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome back to yet another episode of Off the Strength, where we're giving you an inside look into all things wellness culture. I'm a trainer called Tony, and of course, with me, I have a gentleman of extraordinary league.
KR Jones is in the building.
What's good, young homie? How you moving today?
I'm moving great, my good brother. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, good sir.
Fantastically good.
Fantastically good. Far from all right. Close to spectacular, but far from okay. Now, if you don't excuse me, for the listeners who didn't understand that inside joke, we have been trying to get this off for the last 3 attempts.
Of course.
And we finally stuck the landing, but we're feeling a little bit happy.
The sun is shining, man. I'm feeling great, brother.
Hell yeah, man. And since we feeling great, we got to make sure that we salute the brothers out there that also, I hope, are feeling good. Shout out to the homie Corey. Shout out to Troy Brooks out there. Make sure that they are staying just as spectacular as we are today.
I spoke to the good brothers last week, and they are both keeping it strong off the strength. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah, man. Our coalition of the willing is always going to be strong. We ain't never going to be shaky. We always going to be sturdy, homie.
I know they are. Shout out to the brother Troy putting together his work. You seen the rower he put together?
I've seen this man.
Doing the work on both ends.
Hell
you get
yeah,
what I'm
man.
saying?
I seen the time lapse. He put some work on that little Allen wrench that came inside with that little thing,
you know,
man.
That's a lot of wrist mobility. You need to do that.
Hell
you
yeah,
know?
That's the true testimony to how strong your will is going to be. This man has luckily put some time, energy, and efforts into getting this mental acuity right with all the stuff he had to assemble for the little homie Sage out there. So he made light work of this rower out there, my man.
Of course.
I don't even think he was on time lapse. I think that was just how he was pulling up.
He got that.
Off the strength.
Off the strength.
Speaking of which.
What's
going down, man? How you been feeling moving through this week, huh?
I've been feeling good. I've been doing my best to redefine what normal is. Because we aren't normal, like you said. This isn't a normal situation. So the only way to feel that way is to redefine what it is. And just really taking in a lot. Like, this is the time where a lot of people are scared or fearing something. And I just feel like I don't have time for that, bro. It's just not where I'm at. And on my bike ride on the way here today, I was just taking a route that you take in things differently. When you're riding past houses that you used to kick it with, you can't kick it with those people no more. When you are riding past the school that you graduated college from and see that all closed down. When you see businesses boarded up. When you see a Uber driver that has to stop at a hospital, makes you think about, damn, I wonder how many people he picked up. Like, this is a different type of mindset, a different type of survival when you're outside.
Yeah, man. I think in this time in particular is going to give you an appreciation that I hope people hold on to, at least people of this generation that are of the right mind. If you're cognitive right now, this is going to change the way you look at life for, I think, the foreseeable future.
It better. And just, this is something that I haven't announced formally, but I've been inspired to do so. Fam, I've been killing this Duolingo out here. You know what I'm saying? My Spanish is next level. Muy bien, gracias.
That's how you coming in. So I'm glad. Yes, I'm glad to see that you're using the best of this time period that we have right now before us. That I am trying to entitle as the Great Awakening, Young Jones.
Of course,
you're awakening an inner curiosity outside.
For sure. If I had an instrument, I'd be playing it right now, but I don't. But maybe in the near future.
Listen, man, we got some time, we got some energy, we got some curiosity. I think that's going to take you pretty far.
You're damn right it will.
Hell yeah, man. And speaking of that, we got to make sure that we appreciate this time for what it is. Obviously, I feel like this might be a little bit different because it's not just the businesses closing, it's the actual threat and the mortality that everybody has to face. And there is palpable fear inside there. And with that, yeah, you do find the magic in things that used to seem benign and used to seem like they were just accidental, walking down the street and seeing people.
Seeing a group of people.
Seeing groups of people together. It's getting closer to spring, kind of transitioning into the summertime. People playing outside. People doing all the things that, you just walk past and never stop to think about. Now it's a little bit more pronounced. You can see the magic in the mundane, so to speak. And I think that as you find that and you look through that and reminiscing upon those things, when this does eventually change, I want to keep that same appreciation for the little things, for the dumb stuff.
I would like to think that we keep that same appreciation, but you never really know. People take a lot of things for granted, especially in this generational space that we're in with the microwave generation. Like, people's attention span are like goldfish.
Yeah, they can be, but again, that's only because you've had the privilege of not having to worry about stuff. It can be easy to get caught up into all the craziness that's going on, and everybody shutting down, and everybody having to do all that, taking their time, energy, or efforts away from the thing that they used to love or the things that they used to have to be around. And specifically on our side in our industry, most of the things that we move on has a need for gathering, has a need for you moving your body and being around your community, so to speak. So when all of that stops, where the hell do we go?
Inward.
We're not able to walk around thinking that we can be indestructible anymore.
Yeah.
So with all of that, I'm just trying to be as appreciative as possible. I'm trying to be as intentional as possible and just be thankful, man.
Of course.
Let's make sure that we make effort to acknowledge the people that are in the system and be thankful for the people on the front line, like your paramedics and everybody in the medical field. Be thankful for the people at the grocery stores. Be thankful for the people at your pharmacies, the people that are helping, curtail this. Be thankful for the police officers, and that's a hard sentence for me to say.
I saw crossing guards still out.
Yeah, we got to
Even though
thankful.
school isn't out, crossing guards are still out. I see them every morning.
Be thankful for the fire department. Be thankful for everybody that is inside this system that's keeping really a lot of other stuff at bay in the time that it would fall apart. Because reality is a suggestion. Laws are a suggestion. And when people are desperate, people will do desperate things. So I'm thankful for everybody that's in there supporting this whole system. And as we get to the good notes, man, I want to start off every week in this new series of shows to talk about something that we can be optimistic about. So we're trying to make sure that we get as creative as possible and as supportive as possible. With that in mind, I gotta be honest, Kyle, I'm grateful for all of the coalition of the willing, the fitness people out here that keep going above and beyond and leading their revolution through the body, through the mind, and through the spirit. And I gotta shout out a couple people, man. I feel like
lay them out here.
We come on here, usually we wasn't really heavy on the name dropping side.
Not at all.
But I want to come back and drop some names because I know these are the people, the small businesses I want to celebrate, the practitioners and the movement artists that I really do want to celebrate. First and foremost, we got to go back through and celebrate the people that are on the actual staff. So I've been seeing Troy put up a bunch of different workouts.
Of course.
I've seen homie do the thing for Lululemon when he was doing the warm-up and the stretches, getting your back right because people were sitting around.
My man gave you the dialogue out here.
Yeah.
Breaking down the life cycle. What's up?
Yeah, so we got to start off with the home team. But then after we go outside the home team, I want to shout out some of the people that have been on this platform that are doing great things. Like, not for nothing, I can't help but scroll past Meg's feed and see some stuff that makes me feel like I need to get my whole life together.
Shout out to Meg. I was just talking to her earlier.
Meg is out here on some Spider-Man movements. If you ever want to find the workout that you need to do that you didn't know you need to be doing, and all the rest
She
of
did
that.
a handstand mountain climber.
Yeah, I'm not mad at any parts of that. And I was like, damn, Meg, my neighbors will be mad, but I'm happy that yours is supportive of this motion. So shout out to Meg, always inspiring on her moves. I want to shout out Los for doing not just the communication side, but also doing the group workouts. And that's Baba Los out there for everybody following through. I want to make sure we tag everybody coming through there. I want to shout out the homie Joe Buckner for always knocking them out. The 1-2 solid punches coming through. I want to shout out the whole Hill House staff because they're still leading people through these important dialogue and conversations as we come through. Shout out the lovely ladies over at Harlem Cycle. Tamika Rochester out there still been doing a few different group classes and streaming classes, friend of the show if you would. I'd like to see the business owners getting creative on that side, so I want to make sure we shouted her out.
Uptown, baby.
Hell yeah, man. Keeping that uptown fun going alive, man. I got to make sure that we shout out Form Fitness too. That's the Brooklyn local collective of ladies out here still holding it down pretty strong, showing that love. I want to shout out the homie Sin for giving his unapologetic brand of motivation. You're going to get some F-bombs and all the rest of that stuff, but if you make it all the way through what he said and hear him for his intention and not just hear him for how he said it, you're going to get the right kind of vibe and going through the day. So salute to that homie out there. I want to salute the homie Hunter Cron, who's showing you every different type of kettlebell work that you can get inside your living room and garage possible. Love that.
The good brother Kurt was out there moving with that kettlebell. I see him out there.
Okay.
Seen a few moves he was throwing down.
Hell yeah. Friend of the show.
I ain't got a kettlebell on me, but I know what to do next time I see one.
That's Kurt Ellis.
Shout out to my man Kurt Ellis.
And I want to make sure that we make effort to continue to shout people out.
Hold on, I gotta get the creators out there.
Go ahead, let's get the creators.
You know, I
in the
gotta
mix.
shout out my man Ricky Shubio over at Space Camp Fresh.
Shout him out.
He dropped a video the other day of your favorite Jordans 1 through 11.
Okay.
And pulled out 1 through 11 like it was nothing.
He had him in the bag.
He
man.
might have the greatest shoe collection I've ever seen in life. Shout out my man Cloudy,
Okay.
who is still creating
With the vision.
Cloudy Visions.
So since we on the creative side, man, I gotta shout out the homie Raul Espinoza, who we also had on here. That's the photographer. We were celebrating the eye behind the lens. I got a chance to sit down with homie for his Live Loud project and a new series that he's launching called Say It Loud. And we had one of the most explorative conversations I've had up to recent date, man. So creators are out here creating. We said jokes on you, they still alive, Kyle. We still out here, we still thriving. Shout out to all my movement creators, all my visual art creators, anybody in the lab still cooking up some good sounds and tunes. We want to hear them. And not to mention, last but certainly not least, I gotta give a shout out to El Boogie. That's El Santiago. That's the Coalition of the Willing coming inside here and saying, you know what, we want this sound quality. Y'all giving out some gems. I gotta up your sound quality. I gotta make sure the production is here. So thank you to Lawrence Santiago for hitting us with this mic, hitting us with this mixer, because we're gonna keep this thing going.
As we should.
Hell yeah.
Many thanks I do.
For sure, for sure. You know what, Kyle? We talk about doing this shit off the strength, man. And I love when the community shows up and they pull up and they love what we're doing and they give us that same support. So it's only right that we do the same thing, man.
Always.
So if there's anybody out there that wants to hear themselves on this shout out list that feels like we didn't hit them this time, let us know what you're doing. Show us how you keeping it forward. Show us how you inspiring out there, and make sure that we can get you that recognition. Make sure we elevate everybody that's around you that's really trying to move this thing forward. All right? So on that note, Jones,
What's the word?
my man, I think it's the only way that we can jump into this show.
Why don't you lay it out so they can play it out?
We got to get into here.
Let's do it.
We got to kick things off this week on Ripped from the Headlines. Okay, my man, you know it's always got to come down with the good, the bad, the ugly. That's right. It's no other time than right now, right here, this place. So let's start off with the good. I'm looking through USA Today, and they gave us a list of the 21 best fitness products to buy for under $30, because everybody knows that we're inside the house and we're getting this fitness going. We got to keep the fitness moving forward, Kyle.
You might not get your delivery until May,
Yeah.
but
Yo,
order it now.
dumbbells is on back order. Dumbbells is crazier than Jordan dead stocks right now. If you put them joints on stock X, they like, yo, you got 25s, God? Yo, you got the 25s? I want the 27 fives.
Go heavier when in doubt.
Yeah.
Get that 40 and that 80, you know?
Yeah. And make sure you understand the difference out here, folks, because I've seen some people already hit me up. You thought you was ordering LBS and you ordered them KGs. There's a difference. Sometimes the discrepancy will hit
A
you.
2.2 multiply or divide difference. Yeah, you got it.
That'll hit you. When your UPS dude is coming up the stairs and he's looking like he's going through the struggle bus, you know
Shout
you
out
ordered.
to the UPS people.
Shout out, yo, we gotta put them in an appreciation thing. Because all these fit people is ordering a gang of stuff, you know? Shout out to them for holding us down.
Furniture and anything they dropping off.
Yo, people was going through it, man. But I wanted to look at this list and I was going through and I said, you know what, Jones, there's a lot of stuff you can get some good workouts with for under $30.
Well, lay it on me. What you got, brother? The price is right.
Well, the price is always right, but I'm just looking around the crib. You know how I give it up. So I got the kettlebells.
Yeah.
I mean,
You got a couple Vipers. I'm
I
taking
got a couple
one.
Vipers. I don't know if now the price tag on those is going to be a little different.
Hey.
We're not going to talk about how I acquired them, but they was free to me, so they was under $30.
And shout out to you for that.
You know, you got to hustle sometimes, man. Listen.
Of course.
Back to the wall, Ashy Knuckle shit. That's what we on right now.
I'm with you. Renegade, brother. We
Yeah,
here.
man, that's what we're going through. Listen, I'm only a couple days away from putting the ski mask on and the Rona mask on at the same time. So,
I
in
need a
these trying
couple.
times.
I need a couple resistance bands myself.
You know, resistance bands.
Is
one of those
Modell's
things.
essential? 'Cause
Hopefully, right? The resistance bands, though, are under $30, man.
Of
So you
course.
can always get a good set of resistance bands. I like the lateral resistance. I like the resistance with the handles. There's a gang of different work you can go through.
I had an agility ladder somewhere. I gotta pull that out. I
Under
gotta
$30.
look for that.
That's on the list.
And I got my physio ball in the crib.
Physio ball is always a dynamic tool. You can do a gang of different exercises on it, not just the crunches, but challenge your stability, right? That's going to be under 30.
I also have an ab wheel.
Ab wheel is under 30. We
Oh
got it
man,
on
I
in
am
there.
killing this Price is Right
We're
here.
down. We're going
A
down.
jump
the list.
rope.
Jump rope.
Of
Under
course,
30.
jump rope is on that list. Yoga mat,
Under 30.
yoga block.
depending on where you get them from. Spots that you was hanging out with, you know, you might have got the $60 piece over there.
I mean, there's always going to be the watered down version of anything you
Yeah,
need.
so the point is that you don't got to break out. So, like, this is all compared to, like, the $2,000 and almost $500 price mark that you would get at, like, your Pelotons or
Of course.
your mirrors and all the rest of that stuff.
I saw a rower
Yeah.
for $6.99,
Right? There is...
and I'm not talking $6.
No. It's good if you have the access to those funds to spend it, and if you want to go through it, that's cool. But if you don't, you can still keep it moving, and we still want to try to push that motivation. So that's why I put that in the good for today, Jones. And now we talked a little bit before about how everybody is making that transition into the digital space. Lo and behold, CNN is now reporting that the entire $98 billion fitness industry is moving on the digital side. And initially, that seems like something that could be, I'd say, cumbersome to the trainers that were not prepared for this or did not understand. But I would say, Jones, just like the adage tells you, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That is a lie.
That is definitely a lie.
There are some charlatans out here who've been perpetuating the idea that if you're antiquated and you have a skill set that might seem like it's old, can't transition to this new thing and this new generation can't move forward. And you know what? My sassy friend...
Lay it on me.
The man that came out. No, you weren't the sassy friend, bro.
I know, I'm listening. This was the listener land voice.
The listener land. We got to build this up. When everybody told you that you couldn't take your old skill set and transition it into the new space, I say, you know what? There was a man out there who had a plan. A man who dared to look you in the face as flamboyantly as possible and say, hold my bag. I'm coming back out here. That's right. Richard Simmons is back on the block. He's letting you know, just so you thought everybody was going to get out here and get their dance aerobics on. The OG of the game said he's back on the block and coming out in a big, big way. So I was surprised to see this man put up his whole catalog on YouTube, and it is going gangbusters right now, my friend. So not only is that transition digital for the new people, the new practitioners, I want to champion everybody out there that has a skill set that is great at that skill set to look into the atmosphere and find different ways to utilize what they have. Kyle, how you feel about that, man?
I'm feeling like that's a damn good gangbuster sellout right there. Because that is a PTP, Tony. You know what a PTP is?
I do not know what a PTP is.
That is a prime time player right there.
What's wrong with you? So Richard Simmons is a prime time player. All right, cool. I'm not mad at Kyle for going in that direction.
That was a good quote from the good man, Dick Vitale. Listen, man, this March Madness, this would have been the thick of it, and we don't have sports, so I'm trying to live through that sport mentality. And, man, Richard Simmons out there was giving you that work. Early on with the Poom Poom short and the headband, and you name it, he was out here. I don't know what kicks he had on, but I hope, some brand out there pick him up if they smart, you know what I'm saying? That's just me. But,
well, if they were smart, they would be paying attention. And it does look like some of the brands are paying attention, Kyle, to what's going on. So I've seen in recent days that Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, Lululemon, all the brands of the like are now starting to transition their ad campaigns to start to market your in-home workout. Have you witnessed any of that? And that's going to be the continuation of the good this week, because now the brands have to be conscious to their voice, not sending you these campaigns that were telling you to go outside and run. They're like, oh, wait a second, we might have to pivot and go back. So I'm seeing the hashtags start to change. Play at home, work at home, all the rest of these things start to come about. How do you feel about that?
I've definitely seen some of the Target ads, and it lets you know that they are still thinking. They still got money to make. And I appreciate the dichotomy of we still need to make money, but we also want to continue to motivate you. Whether that's to look better, to feel better, to do better, I appreciate that aspect of it. And I'm going to keep that in a good category until it's not.
Yeah, so in along that thought, when going back into the whole sports not being a thing right now, there is now more than ever a time for the in-home hero. And we got a lot of in-home heroes out there that I want to start to motivate and look at these companies as they're starting to position themselves, getting ready for more advertisement coming to your house. You should also be positioning yourself to be as valuable about how you deliver that information as possible. So hopefully you can make those synergies, make those connections, and you can find that opportunity inside that space. Now we're going to move into the bad. And unfortunately for the bad, I'm looking at Bloomberg News. And anytime you're talking about Bloomberg Business News, you're going to understand that the state of this union is going to be under a little bit of disarray this week, Kyle. So we foreshadowed it last week, said anytime the economic engine has to stop, you have to keep feeding this thing. You have to start to look at your profits, you have to start looking at your losses, and you have to start making some tough decisions. So
Your P&Ls, you mean?
your P&Ls, my man.
Or your KPIs.
Your key performance indicators. Well, there's no key performance indicators because there's no performance happening. It is shocking to see how tight this Bloomberg Business Week report was to what I was saying was going to happen last week. Now, people still don't understand why I know this one section of the market extremely well. I don't know what to tell you, but I could have wrote this article because it says boutique fitness studios are now starting to reduce their staff to numbers as small as one person on staff doing these streaming videos. Now, it goes through to detail several studios that I know you know, big name studios inside the city that have multiple locations, multiple storefronts that are no longer able to keep these things moving. So they list a couple of high name spaces, and I, for the sake of this conversation, Kyle, don't want to necessarily lay onto the names because I don't know if everybody knows this information as deeply as they do just yet. And I know a couple of people who work for some of these organizations that may or may not be upfront with how they want to present themselves getting laid off in this time and in these scenarios. But what's ending up happening, their top staff is getting kept, and we're going to shoot as much content with these people as possible while you're on that top staff, which is great for the few who are fortunate inside there. The article does go down the list to detail some of the employees, what the status of their employment was, and then how that also is going to impact their ability to now find compensation in the appropriate way. Kind of like we were talking about last week when we said some of these people who were inside these spaces, not labeled as employees, but as part-time workers or independent contractors, are not going to be in that same safety net. So please do pay attention to Bloomberg Business Week. Look up the article of what's going on, and we're going to see how these things are starting to transpire. What's your thoughts on this so far, Kyle?
Being as though that I am one of those people that's been in a situation similar, I understand completely. I think that you would be remiss to not foresee this coming this way, even if it wasn't as long as 6 months or 3 months from now. But to be where we are now, present day, and not foresee this coming, you are utterly unprepared.
So they're estimating that about 357,000 workers are underneath this fitness trade, right? In some way, shape, or form. That's either if you are on staff as a trainer, instructor, or if you're the cleaning staff, or if you're working the front desk.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So everybody inside that swath is now facing different places where they may be ineligible for unemployment benefits right now. And we're looking for a governing body to lobby for our interests to add us into the lawmakers' relief funds. But the problem is, Kyle, is that who is saying that they're going to speak for all of these people at the same point in time? And this is a question that I have to ask every single point in time. And I have to look at your International Health and Racquet Sports Associations, IHRSA for short. I don't know if everybody out there understands that, so I'm going to give it to you one more time. International Health Racquet Sports Association. These are governing bodies that are in your industry that you should know the names of, but if you don't, realize why you weren't on the industry side.
Of course.
So I'm looking at all of the certifying bodies that we all do know. So I'm looking at your NASMs. I'm looking at any of the places where you can go and get your accreditation for the business that you're in, right? Nobody can train legally without having these things. Where's your representation inside that? If I'm paying you year after year, how are you helping me stay afloat in this point in time?
To continue your education, Tony, that's the only way.
Right. The CEUs are great, but when the industry stops, where do I put those CEUs? Realistically, for me, in all intents and purposes, I'm speaking from a position of privilege. I have every certification that you can possibly get underneath that one body, right? And I have more that exceed outside of that body. So I'm not even going to just throw them underneath there. But let's look at your certified strength and conditioning coaches. Let's look at all of these places where you can get good information from, right? I want to put a critical lens on that because if you tell me that I'm able to work inside here, when the work infrastructure is all gone, what ends up happening to these people in that influx? I've gotten a gang of NASM emails talking to me about certification. Here's the thing that I'm really confused about. What game are you paying attention to? This is why whoever's coming up with this legislative body representing people, if their old thoughts are the thoughts that are supposed to save us, this is why I have no faith in these people. Because right now, I could turn on my phone and be a trainer and it costs me nothing. How am I going to validate that? Who's the regulatory bodies here? Who's going to come in and reinforce your thing that we held so high? Before it was the institution because they wouldn't hire you without having that. Now the gates are closed. The game has changed, but you're still trying to play by the same rules. I have no faith in people who are trying to lead with old thoughts. So now more than ever, it's going to take unification from the ground to change what's happening in the front. I don't honestly know, Kyle, if I'm even interested in fixing a system that I know was broken for a long time. Why? Because it was never in service of these 300,000 people that are in jeopardy right now.
It's time to change.
I think 300,000 people can make a lot of noise.
A whole lot of noise.
And that's what I'm hopeful for, and that's what I would want to try to push towards. So again, I am sorry for everybody who's just finding out the reality of the situation and is starting to be underneath even heavier decision making going forward down the line. I know this is now the second week in this broadcast, so I said by the second week those checks are going to start to dry up a little bit.
Of course.
There's 4 studios that they mentioned directly here. I know more are closing. I guarantee you more are closing. And they also go through this article and mention the fact that even after we lift the ban, most of these people are not just going to come running back to your 60-person class.
It's not how it's going to work.
Why would I? It's one of those things that if fear is a real thing, walking down the street is a real fear-based thing, your business model no longer addresses this crowd. So we are now in the presence of having to survive for the fittest. It's survival of the fitness. If you can't adapt, guess where you're going to end up. Yeah. Picking it up what I'm putting down.
No, for sure. And, I feel that it's a thing of understanding the game that you're in. Most people never understood that game. And especially when you talk about these certifying bodies of different places, majority of them taught you how to train athletes. What happens when you don't have sports anymore, right? Not even talking about the general population. If your job was an athletic trainer or a physical therapist and you rely on an institution or a building to have a job, what happens when you don't have that?
Well, I would even take it a step further, right? I would say there's certain aspects of it that did require you to have a athletic prowess or an athletic disposition.
Yeah.
That's because we needed to make it scientific in order for you to pay for it, right?
True.
So there's an educational process in there. It's a gateway. I need to tell you that you're good enough to do the thing that I said that you're good enough for. But the problem is inherently with that, how many people were actually telling you how to run a business? How many people were actually telling you how to market?
It was a chapter in the book, because I remember teaching it, and it was no more than a paragraph.
Right.
Or a page at that.
Even crazier than that, when you do face these threats that every business has to face, where do you adapt? Where do you innovate? Where do you go forward from that? So if I had to create a system based off of hierarchy, and now hierarchy just doesn't matter, your system doesn't matter. It just doesn't. I have a bunch of degrees, and I'm not saying it's just out of, just to brag about it. They literally mean nothing today. They could not be valued. They couldn't be valued. I could take every piece of paper and literally just start Kobe! It, and it would get me exactly as far as I have right now. Luckily, I feel like I could diversify my skill set and been talking about enough other stuff to be a little bit more well-rounded, and that's the bell that I want to ring for everybody going forward. So we got to leave about it as bad with the hope, right? So the hope is that these things are still going to be happening. What can you do to be proactive in that aspect? There's still a lot of people who do need value-based information coming from people who are innate motivators. There's still going to be a need for you to lead somebody. It might look a little different from where your leadership was before. You have valuable information. Harness that information. Get it out. Be creative. We just shouted out a bunch of different people using the constraints of their medium to the highest level. And I know fitness has the same thing.
Of course.
Let's get out of each other's way in terms of trying to copy. Let's innovate. Let's really start to focus on how we unify that voice to make a push to go towards preventative health care. Because that's what I think this whole thing should be classified as. And nobody is going to get rid of prevention inside the healthcare system going forward.
I'd much rather the prevention than the cure.
Yeah.
In any case.
That's the call, that's the ticket, and that's what I'm going to hope for rallying out of this bad situation this week, Jones. But just like the bad has to come to an end, we have to jump into this ugly. And the ugly this week, unfortunately, has to come back to this whole COVID situation. And now the CDC, after hearing from our lovely leadership, is considering extending the social distancing guidelines to now include people going outside to always have their face covered. This is in light of we are getting a lot of conflicting information, and we're getting some people that want to open up everything right now, right away, and just act like nothing's happening. And you're getting some people that want to be extreme on the shut-in side. The CDC is one of the places that I at least try to look to find valid information because they study diseases. the Center for Disease Control. You gotta always make sure that you go to a good place to validate your information. And if they are considering making a suggestion to make everybody cover your face whenever you leave the house, there's something to be said inside there. The U.S. is number one in the expansion of this coronavirus. We have to get good information. This climate is why this is getting as insidious as it is.
Of course.
We've abused the word truth. We've abused the word fact. And we have totally thrown away what hierarchy in information and knowledge used to have to be.
I'll take it a step further, whereas though we don't understand severity and consequence.
And that's a privilege-based system because everybody has voice. But not everybody deserves to be talking when it comes down to this. I appreciate feelings, I appreciate emotions, and I want everybody to have those and be able to express those. But if you don't know what you're talking about sometimes, you need to go to the people who have studied this one area in a space that is dedicated to doing one thing.
I just feel like at some point, based upon how our government has been run and money talks, there's always going to be a play in my mind. So I will always take your information and hold it first, but I will always, in the back of my mind, wonder what this really may mean.
And I want to punctuate that. I want to give you credence inside that thought because to put it into context, I know the Tuskegee experiments, right? And I understand that we don't have a past history where it hasn't been orchestrated things where specific illnesses were tried on disenfranchised populations to see what would happen. I know the indigenous American story, right? I understand all of these things and they have credence and they hold weight up to a certain extent. But I can understand the abuses of infrastructure and the hierarchy of infrastructure that is built to take away from you. I'll give you that credence, and let's say that you are right. The end of that result, what's the goal there? It's not to kill you, right? Because if you're dead, you don't end up getting to profit off of the dead people.
Of course not.
So in these extreme circumstances, yes, fear, you can benefit off of the fear. You can benefit off of a lot of stuff. And honestly, if you really want to go to it, that's my point at social media. Because now more than ever, that's probably going to be the bigger abusing power in there if we really want to get to it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take that away for a second. Let's put that back off the table and just look at it for the sake of I can't manipulate or subjugate or exploit a population that doesn't exist. So at the end of the day, we can come up with I go down a spider web of theories as to why this is happening and all the rest of that stuff.
Of
but
course.
what still has to outweigh that? If the CDC is telling you, yo, you might have to go outside covering your face, there's probably a reason for that. Because even at the end of the day, what's the benefit? Are they gonna make more money out of this situation? No.
They got the mask on lock, you know what I mean? They charge you extra for that. They're getting 2% of every mask you buy, Tony.
Actually, no. Doctors are running out of masks.
Facts.
We just changed a equipment company to start making a baseball equipment making company, making jerseys to start making masks. We are now at the point where we're asking GM, who makes cars, to make respirators. This is when I have to say, okay, conspiracy theory, we have to put that off because that doesn't happen without cause. Even if somebody's going to benefit from it, somebody's always going to benefit from tragedy. You just have to let that go.
Yeah.
You have to have that non-attachment theory, appreciate the fact that somebody's going to take this. Yeah. Somebody's always going to get out on top, and it's usually the person that was already setting up the game, right? At the end of the day, that person, if they're even trying to benefit, can't benefit if you're dead. So I got to go with that information. And do I think that we're above being manipulated and all the rest of that? No, not at all.
Of course not.
But we got to kind of put out the fire that is important first before we start to really unpack and understand what the whole system was based off of.
I'm with you. That
is the good, the bad, and the ugly this week, my man.
Definitely the ugly.
You know what? And I do want to also shout out the people on that front line. Like, again, I am never going to be lockstep with what GM is doing because corporations are not people and they've perverted that definition as well. But in a time of need, if you're going to step up and raise that bar and start to change your whole situation from making cars to making ventilators, I got to salute somebody that's doing that. So I could still keep that same energy and still think that you might not be the person that you say you are. But when you're doing the thing that you're supposed to do to help people in a time of need, I got to take that field. I got to make sure that I understand where you are, lockstep, and we can both raise that bar together.
Of course.
Let's talk about raising the bar this weekend, Jones.
What's up, good people? So, in today's Raise the Bar segment, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be very vulnerable at this moment. The bar is a little low right now, Tony. I'm not even going to hold you.
I know, man.
So, I'm gonna start in some low places, and by the end of this, we should bring that bar back up.
Yes, sir.
That makes sense to you?
I'm always here for it.
So, first and foremost, start this segment off with a little passage from my diary that I wrote in, journal, whatever you want to call it. It's a book in the crib, but write in it,
Okay.
right? So this was at the end of 2017, going into 2018. So it's relatively 3 years ago or so. And this passage that I wrote went a little something like, life has been a wonderful roller coaster of growth. I have truly experienced a transition, a elevation, and separation. I have been pushed, pulled, twisted, hit, kicked, reached over top of, bumped into, overlooked, glorified, underpaid, overpaid, introduced, never forgotten, maintained, lost, and found. Somehow I found my way. I think that was where I was truly feeling, because I felt all of those emotions. I wanted to share that because it just kind of made sense with this time that we're in right now. I feel like it's important to understand where you come from, to understand your roots, to understand what kind of holds you down. So, the good brother Tony introduced me to a book called Radical Dharma.
I cannot take full credit for that. We got to go back into the books and go back on the records and look at the homie Minaj Diaz.
Shout out to the homie Minaj.
You know, Buddha and Balenciagas is the episode that you need to be listening to, because he definitely dropped that reference on me. And at the time, I understood it to be something that I wanted to check out of some kind of innate curiosity.
Of course.
But I believe, Kyle, just like many good things in life, the books that come to you at a time when you need them are the books that are going to hit you in a different type of way.
Of course.
So as soon as I started reading this, I had to give that out to my brother. I was like, yo, fam, I'm 2 pages in, and I'm seeing that. All right, yo, first, Minaj, yo, fam, you was wilding with this book, but thank you, because I needed this now more than ever. And then immediately, if I'm going to talk to a spiritual advisor, had to pass that along. So the light in me saw the light in you, my brother.
Namaste. And I appreciate that. But that book is very dense in the material that it is, but one part that spoke out to me was the healing component. Mm-hmm. And I think that healing component, shout out to Mick Jenkins and
The
THC.
healing component.
There we go. THC, weed, healing component, all of the above.
Higher levels.
Hierarchy. With that being said, I think when you take the time to go back within into yourself, I think that's when you can actually sit with the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between, and be okay in that and love every aspect of it, because you're a multifaceted individual. So, my good brother Tony here, what can you say contributes to your healing component?
That's a tough one. And I think now more than ever, I'm really just starting to tap into that, because this is a great time of, like we said earlier on, an awakening, but this is also a great time of healing for a lot of people. A lot of people are facing the fact that the thing that you did doesn't exist anymore. And the thing that you might have gotten celebrated for or accreditation to is not really something that's going to be the thing that defines you. So you have to kind of kill that ego that might have been celebrated and might have even pushed you forward during that time. That's a reality that I'm still working through. And that's a reality that I'm coming into now terms to understand what happens after that. What's healing me is doing this work that I kind of had reference to in different aspects in different ways. And because I come across great people who make these great references and recommendations, I know where to go for that information. But the hardest part is being a practitioner is knowing when to turn that lens back around to you and really have that same level of scrutiny in the best of sense, right? Be selfish, but also be selfless towards yourself. It's a tricky thing to grapple with. So for me right now, honestly, it's trying to be as radically honest about what I need in that moment and what's going to be fulfilling for me in that specific case or that day, and being okay with what happens inside there. It's a developing process. It's something that is, being tested now more so than ever. It's been a hard-ass year before this stuff started. And now it's just only reiterating a lot of things that I kind of had to put into practice. If I'm going to be about this, if I'm going to be a person who can, kind of come back up from that Phoenix thing, you gotta let everything burn down that was old you. So I'm actively in pursuit of killing my old ego. I'm actively in pursuit of reconstructing, redefining everything that, if I thought this system was broken, why am I in a rush to fix certain things? And that's the first level of healing for me, is like, well, acknowledging the fact that a lot of this stuff was wrong. And I'm not crazy about noticing things that were just palpably not true or palpably incorrect. So now that I notice that, allowing that to fall, but then also saying, well, I can't just be critical without having a solution. And I can't just take my solution and want to broadcast that out. I have to make sure that the solution is wrapped in a message that people will actually be accepting too. A lot of my work is work that requires confrontation. And not confrontation in a negative sense, but if you see something that is wrong and you're trying to educate somebody else to the fact that that's wrong and they're not ready for it, it's going to have abrasion. It's challenging your comfort to help you understand that you have the power to change your outcome. That's what I'm trying to do with everything. And it's not always going to be received well.
That's what you're doing. Don't say try. It's not in your vocabulary.
Right.
You have a dense diction that trying should not be in your vocabulary. So.
I only leave myself room for that, and to be honest, to be forgiving. Because if I am only espousing to be perfect, even inside of that logic, then I'm robbing myself too. So I can only take credit for what my intention is, and my intention is always to try and help elevate somebody. How that ends up turning out is outside of my terms. Here's the thing that I wanted to do, here's why I have this information, and here's where my heart is. Everything else is going to be subject to what that person's reality is.
I couldn't agree more. I think the ability to just be able to sit with that past, the burden, and your accomplishments or the goals you have in place, typically. So for me to be able to then understand what am I going to sit with this week, I'll let you in on 3 things that sat with me this week. I'll tell you that I went grocery shopping the other day. Not being cognizant of the time, just assuming stores will stay open later because of the times we're in, I was sadly mistaken. I got to the store and upon entry, I mean, as soon as you walk through that sliding door, they got the loud message over top. Like, we are closing in 5 minutes. So I was like, oh, 5? Like,
Supermarket sweep for real.
a strong 5? Remember those shows back in the day where they would give you a certain amount of money, you just pick up as many items as you could?
That supermarket sweep.
Yeah, exactly. That supermarket sweep, I had to really sweep the supermarket.
Yeah.
Fam, I was in there like James Bond, hopping over stuff, sliding fast, you know what I'm saying, knocking things, and then it was nuts.
Yeah.
All to get to the counter with 1 minute to spare. It was a true highlight. Man, I wish there was cameras to film how I was shopping in there. Behind the backs you've never even seen.
Don't throw your groceries into the cart with a behind the back pass.
No, I'm telling you, this was all highlights. I got in, got out like an OG classic. That was the middle part, just understanding the levity of the situation. The bad part, Bill Withers passing. Man, Bill Withers' music hit differently. He's one of those artists where he doesn't have a dense collection of music, but all of the music that he does have is quality. Like, I can't come across a song and it not hit different, especially now. And I remember being a kid, I was the young kid, and this is why I have that old soul, is I knew Grandma's Hands way before I knew No Diggity. Mm-hmm. Song-wise.
And you're talking about Blackstreet's No Diggity.
I'm talking about Blackstreet's No Diggity. That was what, popular in the 90s? But I knew the origin of that, and that was arguably the first sample that I picked up on. Was like, wait a minute, this is an older song that they redid. So when he passed, I think it just hit harder.
We're losing a lot of damn legends this year, man.
Too many.
It's hard. And I had the privilege of, just before everything shut down, seeing a Bill Withers tribute band play out in Brooklyn. And it was one of those things that, just like you were saying, it puts into context when you're hearing his songs played out loud and everything else. This man lived a full life before he was discovered as an artist. And that's why his music sounds the way it does. He's not in his 20s when he first gets put on. I think he was almost in like early to mid 30s. And that's, I'd say, check out The Black Godfather, because they do give the little bit of that origin story as to how Clarence Avant put him on. But he was already a fully developed man. And you could hear in his music, this man has lived through heartbreak multiple times.
Of course.
This man has lost some loved ones multiple times.
Definitely.
But he still has that that ability to give you that uplifting factor in that Lovely Day catalog. Still has that just the two of us, give you the hope inside of all of these different things, you know. And these are songs that last the canon of time because they are from lifetime experiences that you just can't pull from when you don't have that level of maturity.
I couldn't agree more. And that is why I bring it up in this healing component. Bill Withers sung from a place of healing. You had to put all of that out for the world to see and go through that and live with that. And I think that is a great connection, which is going to bring me to the good in this week. And the good in this week was watching Dave Chappelle's Mark Twain Award show.
I did not have a chance to see that.
Man, it is definitely worth seeing. And it's worth seeing because you're seeing Dave be celebrated for all the work that he did. And when it boils down to the Chappelle show being what it was him being able to get out all of his feelings. It was him talking about politics. It was him talking about the rap community and the music that influenced him so much. It was just his ideas. That's what a skit show is. It's ideas that I came up with that I'm presenting. So at the base of it, that was his healing component. That was his expression. That was something that he had to walk away from 12 years and then come back to it.
I know what I got, because I lost it all. I got to tell you something, and I don't talk about it often. Have you ever worked all your life for something and have it not work out? That happened to me. It was tough. Think about it. I was gone for 12 years. It's not a little bit of time. It was hell. I watched the world go on without me. I mourned the loss of it, and after a while, I didn't care. Coming back was terrifying. I understand what I am. I really do. More than anybody. Like when they write about me in history, I'll be dead reading it like, yeah, I knew they'd say that.
The idea of leaving something and coming back, in the words of the poet and lawyer DMX, if you love it, you let it go and it come back, that's how strong it was.
No. that goes terribly wrong sometimes in life, Kyle.
That's how it's going down. If you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
How the game is being played, man. I understand.
Let me know.
Is you with me or what?
Hey, man. What these bitches want from me?
No.
Let me stop. Let me stop right there. My bad. But
I totally get the sentiment and I get the direction that they want to go into. And yeah, you know, you have to have the power of non-attachment is really what that's coming down to. Translated into modern day poet laureate as Earl was putting it. If you have something that you have so much possession of and you still have the power to let it go, that's forgiveness. If you still have the power to look at whatever you needed out of that and not be dependent, but have that reflection where, you know what, I'm going to trust in what I feel because I only have ownership of what I can. That's the serenity that comes from that aspect. And we
Come
can
on!
go ahead
sorry.
and give them a little bit more love after we find that forgiveness. And if it does return back, then you do know it's true.
What?
So I say it in jest. We've been teaching these people. We got prophets out here too, man. We're going to lift them up. Shout out to Earl out there, man.
Shot him out, man. Yo, slipping?
Yeah, man.
Man, I'm slipping. I'm falling. We can't get up because
We got to get up. Get back on our feet.
Come on,
So
man.
we can tear shit up.
Whew. He was preaching, wasn't he?
Hell yeah, man.
Oh, man. Shout out to the brother. But see how I took you on this journey. I took you on this journey to raise the bar.
Yeah, man.
We started off in a low place, and at the end of that, we raised that bar up.
Hell yeah.
So I'm going to wrap it up with, of course, I made another playlist.
Okay.
The playlist for this is called Outside, Volume 1.
You recommending people to go outside when they're telling everybody to go inside, Kyle?
No, that is not what I'm recommending.
Okay. Here we
This
go.
is people talking about outside
Ah.
and that feeling of being outside.
There we go.
But you listen to it inside.
There we go. All right.
You
we
ain't
got
going outside for this.
Yeah.
It's outside is coming to you.
outside, inside. We
Bingo.
working from the inside. Back on. Yeah.
PEMDAS. Parentheses.
I get you.
The exponents.
I get you.
You know, and then you multiply and then divide.
You ain't have to break that all the way down.
My
bro.
bad.
I got where you was at. I got you the first time you said it. Go ahead.
That was for the listeners in listener land.
I
In
appreciate
case
it.
they
man.
ain't picking up what I'm putting down.
They picking it up now.
Off the strength.
Hell yeah, man.
What always helps me the most is music. Good brother Tone, were you able to see any of the playlists that I created?
I did not, my man. You gotta send that back through this way.
Of course, I'll send it to you. Always check my Instagram stories. I'll post them. I'll even post a new highlight for y'all where y'all can find these different playlists. A playlist called Better Days, which starts off with the good brother Nip. Of course, you gotta set that right. And I made another one that's called I Can't Believe It's Not Butter.
Okay.
You know what that's gonna do.
Not no parquet.
Not no parquet.
Not no margarine.
Not no margarine.
Simply butter.
Simply smooth like a baby's bottom. You know what I mean? So those are the latest playlists that I made that'll help you and inspire you to stay good, stay moving, keep you dancing, keep some lightness in you.
Yeah,
you know?
man. Make sure you send those out. You said that competition in there being kind of like sports. Yo, fam, the sports stations are dying, homie.
Of course.
I seen it looks literally like Skip and Shannon was going to start slap boxing in white tees on IG Live to give you some. They digging deep, trying to find stuff to talk about. It's like ESPN is showing dice games, spade tournaments,
Not dice games.
and words with friends. They don't got nothing
Oh,
else.
triple letter score.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see that?
He used iambic pentameter.
Wow. Man, you just don't see that every day, Tony.
Yeah, man. So people are starting to look a little crazy. The whole content lens, Kyle, is shifting towards what you're talking about. It's going live. And what that ends up doing is it makes what event-based TV used to have come back around. Because video on demand was like, yo, check this out. Unless you were playing a sport where I had to watch it in live time to be in that space, or I had to watch something that was only going to come around one time, it's that consumption of this information and being a part of the whole conversation at the same time that was kind of dead on traditional media.
Yeah.
It has to be alive now because you can't comment on somebody's live the day after.
No.
It's not going to be the same thing. So what we're witnessing is the shift between priorities. I said the Black Mirror is now the new silver screen. Realistically, if people are looking at it as like, yo, a little bit of real estate that we fighting over, guess what's happening right now? Because everything that's coming forward after this is going to be shifted here. Because why in the hell would I spend a crazy amount of money to put on the biggest possible production of anything when I know more people would consume deeper on this device?
Yes.
What's the profit? What's the incentive? What's the execution? And if you can understand those different parts, recognize at this point in time is giving birth to a whole different way of how people are going to be putting media out. We already started seeing Quibi putting way more money inside of what they're putting into their whole production catalog.
I don't like the name by any means.
You can feel however you want to feel.
Of
and
course.
this is going to be another one of those educational moments where it's
Yeah.
like, brother, I want you to feel whatever you need to
The
feel.
more you know.
I'm going to tell you right now, that is not the last time you're going to hear that come out.
Of course not.
It's not going to be the last time that's going to change what's going on.
I saw when it came onto the scene, brother.
Yeah.
I've been around.
I'm talking about what they are intending on doing now more than ever. 'Cause again, we talked about earlier in the day, some people are going to make money. Some people are going to suffer. What ends up happening to everybody else is inside the middle. Guaranteed that you're going to see a lot more comprehensive, small-scale storytelling. And I want to be a part of those storytellers.
As you should. I believe that storytelling is a true art that's hardly reciprocated, but is appreciated nonetheless, right? Like, it's hard to tell someone else's story if you can't put yourself in their shoes, right? With that barrier of entry being lower, it is time to create. I've seen people that have been in a little bit of a funk, though. Shout out to It's the Real Podcast. I was listening to that. They were interviewing Joe Fresh, the guy that I always talk about with New Balance and things of that nature, yada, yada, yada. And he talked about being kind of stuck in a rut and not being able to create because of the constraints. This is coming from a person whose majority of his ideas are based upon gatherings of people.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess my question to you is, in this time, what could you say helps you continue to create and not get stuck in a rut or a funk of the circumstances?
I don't want to do that disservice because that's a real situation too. Like, I lost straight up businesses in this shakeup, and I'm not saying that in any overstated way. Let me really be clear. A lot of stuff that people were seeing me do last year for free was setting up businesses for this year.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing it on the cheap. I wasn't doing it on the low. I was doing it to get a part of different things. So I have multiple avenues where I was planning a summer's worth of events. I was planning distribution strategies for a number of different categories. And I was also planning on taking what we're doing here and elevating that to a different level. If I just looked at the loss for the loss, I would never get up in the morning. That's not something that I could do. And if I just looked at everything, 2020 kicked me in the ass way earlier than it kicked a lot of other people in the ass, just straight up. Between losing family, between personal shifts in life, and all the rest of that kind of stuff, I was already kind of in that space. And
You was already taking a few punches, brother.
And I was still swinging, right?
Yeah.
So it's always comes back to not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up, right? So if I am constrained by the fact that a lot of the stuff that I was going to do was event-based programming and planning too, that's I can give you a whole business plan as to what I was actually going to be planning on that side. And that gets taken away, what am I going to do? Do I lay down? Do I stay defeated? Or do I find something that's going to help me get back up to the other side? And for me personally, yeah, I had a lot taken away from me. I was in a period of just constant loss inside that space. But at the same point in time, I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that the way that I need to use that to try to get back in. Because at the end of the day, if you're called to be in that creative spark, if you're going to be a person who has to take this doctrine on and wear that as like I'm a leader, first things first, I know my people are hurt. I know what I'm going into. That's a different mode, straight up and down. I've been talking about 300,000 plus people that I know are going to have a real hard time, that don't really know where innovation and all the rest of that stuff kind of comes from, where they're going to go. And I know, not all of them, but I know a fair handful of people that I care about the most is inside that 300,000.
Yeah.
I know what the healthcare situation is on the home front. I started off this year with 2 families that I'm trying to take care of, and I know where they are actually inside of this whole system. If I'm the guy that can see these connections, make those bridges able to be crossed by other people, I feel like there's always going to be a solution. Or at the very least, either I'm going to fail greatly, that do so daring greatly, or I'm going to just keep taking these shots and see if I can get that success to finally turn over. Because at the bottom, there's always going to be that return to the top. And when you hit your true bottom and you understand that and you don't fear that, I'm never going to be afraid to climb back up. Every single time I've taken a loss in this whole cycle of things, Kyle, it's been, all right, man, damn, what happened? What did I learn? Where did I go wrong? What's going on? What's this appraisal factor? And I think everybody's kind of in that appraisal period right now. It's going to be hard, but there's a lot you can get from if you can get rid of certain things. If you can understand, well, okay, where's ego stop? Where's ego start? And where's purpose begin? If I can find purpose, I can always come back to that creative thing.
Now, speaking to your self-appraisal, because this is something that I have not only witnessed, but have been a victim of. How do you get someone to get to that point of a self-appraisal? Let's say these people are part of that 300,000, right?
Yeah.
And my only skill set is I only know how to do this one thing in my mind currently. When I go through this self-appraisal, what are the questions that I need to ask myself outside of checking my ego at the door?
It's easier said than done. And I think everybody has to wear it differently. The truth is going to be something that is so subjective, but once you start to talk to yourself about the truth, you can't hide from it. And that's some deep work, to just be honest with you and be straight up about it.
We spoke about shadow work
Yeah.
well ago on the podcast.
It's going to take a lot for people to get there, and it's scary work, to be honest with you, because what I can tell you, that there's no guarantees at the end of that. For every reason why I'm not afraid is not because I know something is going to be on the other side. It's actually out of the opposite. I don't know that somebody's going to save me. I wish I had the mind that could say I could take all of the things that are happening and a higher power would come in and take over and just guide me through this. I don't know that to be true. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but because I don't know it, I'm not going to wait for anything. So that whole, we've also had somebody to come on here and talk about that faith without work, work without faith. I don't know how to guide that. Right. But I can tell you that in the darkest of times, if you can find that position where you can ask yourself, well, what did I do to get here? Where did I go wrong? What's going on? What's happening? But not make it a judgment-based call. So just because a bad thing happened doesn't mean that you're bad. Evaluating that, doing the struggle with that, grappling with that, and really teasing that out is the only way that I found my way out of that situation. And I also would characterize a lot of the people that I come across and value inside that path. We might not have had the level of, I'd say, understanding that most people would take me in as. I'm a difficult person to understand, just to be straight up.
I don't know. I disagree, but understood.
It's one of those things where unless you stop and really appraise the totality of what I'm doing, it's hard to understand why I'm doing anything at any point in time, but it's never done without purpose. Everything has to have a purpose. That's just going to be my central thing that I keep coming back to. So even when I'm in that down position, well, what's the purpose here? What's the direction? Where can I come from? Where is there a way that I can bet on myself again and turn that back around? It's hard. I don't think anybody has one formula. I've read every single self-help book that is on this shelf over here that you can see in the crib.
Yeah.
And they all kind of say the same thing.
In different ways.
Different ways, but I can tell you right now, if you ain't coming from the space that I'm coming from, I can't give it to you the way that you need to get it. So I haven't seen the self-help book, even like as best as the Charlemagne book says. He's talking about somebody down south, how they go through it. It's not somebody up top in an urban sprawl city that has to go through it their way. But what I can try to look for is the allegory. I look for the allegory in all of these stories because that's where the message tends to be. Here is the romance language in all of these, whatever, self-help, religious texts, all the rest of those things. They kind of always get back to, can you be okay and be happy and be grateful with less? Can you find something that's going to make you get up and do something else off the strength without a need or without a cause? Can you then master that cause to find value in that other people can see? And then can you lead from that authentically? That's essentially the key text for most things that are going to come out of there. And if you can find that in your artistry or the limitation or the thing that might be blocking you, even when it's dark, I think you might find your way out.
I believe that finding your way out is essential to you and only you as the individual. No one else, to your point earlier, is going to come and save you. No one else is going to be your guiding light. Your guiding light comes from within. It has to look. You have to take that introspective look of, wow, like, who am I? What defines me? Because a lot of times people are defined by their jobs or what they do. You ask somebody, what's your name? Who are you? Oh, I'm so-and-so that does this.
Here's a bunch of shit that I did.
Group fitness instructor. I'm a personal trainer. You were a person way before you had a job. And that's what people forget. So this is the time where you find out, who are you as an individual? What can you bring to the world? Not to a 9-to-5 job, not to a job that's killing you on some minimum wage or a salary that's below what you actually deserve. It is, who am I as a person? And when you can answer that question, I feel that's when that shift is going to happen, right? That's when you go from being at rock bottom to taking chances to not caring what's on the other side of that door, because it's not coming as hard as I'm coming. It's not coming from a place that I had to go through.
Yeah, and that's an individual task, man. Is to see how the world will change you, but then also how you can change the world. It's a lot that comes through that type of work. And it ain't cut out for everybody, but right now, more than ever, when you don't have that job that you used to define yourself as, and when you don't have those shiny things, if your creativity came from the engine of consumption and consumption has halted, it's going to be tricky for you to find purpose in that, because people are not doing the same thing. Values have shifted, right? And if values are shifting and you can't change your creativity to shift to where those values are going, realize why that's the problem, right? So when the society thinks, right, and this is, a lot of people don't like to believe that we have a hive mind, but we have a hive mind by and large by what we take in. So as you're shaping what people are thinking, what are we really appraising? Where are we going with that? And how can we continue to find that purpose inside those pockets of refuge? I think it does come from this deep work, and I think it does come from that, really putting that appraisal back into everything that you just finished saying, man. It's going to have to come from you.
In the midst of doing that, you also have to remember to relax responsibly.
You got to kick back.
You got to kick back and relax responsibly. I hate to bring on this heaviness, but we need to understand that we are in a heavy time, and the longer you spend trying to act like it isn't here, the deeper you're going to go. So it's important to find some light, find some time, like the good brother Tyler, the Creator, would say.
Find some time.
Find some time, basically.
Find some time to do some things, Kyle.
So, Brother Tone, what have you been doing to relax responsibly this week? Let's start with you.
Man, I always jump into the music bag. That's the score of my life is always going to have a hard beat, a kick, a snare, and some drums to go with it, maybe some guitar work. So I've always been going through my mental practices with some good music. I think if people follow me, they see that music usually playing out, trying to have some fun with. I do also unplug from time to time. I came up with a little game for myself to play. I don't know if you saw that, the 2-to-1 game. So for every 2 pieces of information or content I consume, I'm trying to create one. And I think making yourself have that also confinement or game in that space can kind of play around with that. So if I'm watching 2 stories, I got to go out and write something. If I'm taking on a TV show, which I got to jump into that new Ozarks in a little bit. I
got into that. We could, man.
We can't talk about it because I ain't look at it yet. But next time we come back, we're going to do that.
Understood.
If I'm taking in this Tiger King shit, I got to come back and do something that's going to be fulfilling. So
I refuse. But continue.
Every time I pour something out, which is how I look at consuming something, I got to make sure I take something back in. And that usually also does help that reflexive, creative mind, because I'm now keeping myself accountable. All right, this is what it's going to be. This is how I need to go. Did I edit the show yet? This is what it's going to be. Did it need to go? Did we find the image that I want to use for this book that was going to come out? All of those things are going to be a cycle of 2 for 1. And I got to make sure that one is something that I genuinely want to do and I enjoy at that point in time. So that's going to be my relaxation. Apart from that, yeah, man, I still, for the limited time that the city hasn't completely shut down, my bike has been refuge, fam. Even if it's just small little quick trip here or there to get like essentials, I need to get on that, man, and just keep it moving.
With that being said, man, I'm always relaxing responsibly by learning, earning, and creating, man. Shout out to the brother Troy Brooks. Shout out to Corey out here. Your trainer, Corey, if you will. But these brothers are always inspiring me to learn and always sending good messages to me as well.
Super facts, man. We got to make sure that we keep everybody on the team adjusted to what's going on, and we got to get these brothers back in here. We got to find some way to get some content out of these guys coming inside here because their voices are missed on these microphones, Jones.
Of course.
We got to get creative with how to get them integrated into this process.
Say less.
So hopefully we can get them relaxing responsibly.
I don't always relax, Tony, but when I do, I relax responsibly. Well, that is going to be it for me.
I appreciate you, Kyle. Kyle, you know what? I love the way you showed up today, my man. You came in. You gave it 110% right out the gate. On 6 takes. On 15 different reattempts in this whole thing. I got to shout out Kyle for coming in and leaving it all out on the floor right here, right now. I appreciate Young Jones for adding some definite needed color commentary.
Anything is possible.
See, he's bringing color commentary inside there, man.
That's how KG did it when he won, right there in 08. You know what I mean? Anything is possible.
Man, I don't even want to talk about KG winning in 08 because I got some stories on that side too. Got some stories to tell. We got a lot of transcendence inside here. One day, Kyle, as I'm writing one book right now, I'm going to start talking about all these different little connections that the great and wondrous life of
A Trainer Called Tony.
Has some crossovers that a lot of people wouldn't believe, but I got some receipts that make sure.
Oh, I'm ready for that interview because I got questions, brother. You know what I mean?
These questions don't need answering right now. These questions are just putting a little dot on that. It's like, yeah, I do. There's something there, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But what I do want to go back into, Kyle, what I do want to focus on right now primarily is that there was a little pivot or a little quote that got me into the inspiration as to why I had to recommend that book to you. And you brought that up a little bit earlier. I think we need to unpack that. I think we need to go back inside there. So this is from Radical Dharma, making a reference to a Bruce Lee quote that kind of hit home. And it really pulled up some emotion right now, especially in the time that we're facing.
Under duress, we do not rise to our expectations, but fall to our level of training.
Okay, so under duress, we do not rise to our level of expectation, but fall to our level of training. What that mean to you, Kyle?
It means that you should trust the process. I have never questioned if I could survive or not because I've been surviving for a very long time, way before Corona was here. So my skill level is something that I can bet on. I'm always bet on me. So under duress, my expectations may fall short. That is only natural. If you aren't setting goals and if your goals aren't somewhat unattainable, then they're not big enough. If it don't scare the shit out of you and keep you up at night, are you even really doing anything? All I can count on, in your words, is the work that I put in. And I know I'm working. I don't know what anybody else is doing. I only know what I'm doing, and I can only be responsible for what I put into it. Because that's what I'm going to get judged on, and that's what's going to get given back to me. That's how the universe works. That is what that quote meant to me, and it hit hard like a disrespectful stepdaddy.
I'm gonna leave that all the way alone. But the reason why I stopped at what that meant, is because especially right now, a lot of people want to live up to or feel the pressure to live up to certain things that in our industry we want to champion, right? So certain things that productivity needs to be at an all-time high right now. Certain things that if I was not a creative or if I wasn't invested in that creative process, but now I got to feel like I have to put out a lot of different stuff right now. And then you're confronted with the reaction not being what you thought it should be. It's looking at, well, where were you putting your practice in? What were you putting your value system into? Because you can take on new things right now, and I do champion everybody to investigate and explore as many different new avenues, but you have to take those on with the lens and expectation of somebody being brand new in that arena. You can't take your old victories and transpose them into a new atmosphere and think that you're going to get to that same level because you haven't put that practice in yet, and your training isn't there. So as trainers, what have we always had? What have we always gone back to? Where do we get back up from the mat when you do fall down? That's what I'm looking at inside that quote. And it really did hit me because it's like, well, Kyle, it's no coincidence that in the year where everything is falling apart, the things that are starting to be uplifted is conversational pieces. It's going to be the things where we're celebrating you not just for one aspect of your person, but in storytelling, in being able to find your ability to relate to a wider demographic than you might have been limiting yourself to, being able to divorce yourself of expectations on what am I doing to make somebody else feel comfortable, but what am I doing to make myself feel good? Where's the training inside of that? And that's, honestly, to go back to your first point, that's what I'm trying to really reinvest in right now, because the training was always there. The intention and the ideas were always there. They're just starting to come back up a little bit differently now. And I'm trying to rely on the fact that I always knew to build a strong team. I always knew that anybody that's on that team knows that if I'm in your circle, we're in this together. Nobody's going to fall because we're all holding each other up. So that part of that training, critical right now. And I know a lot of trainers out there, a lot of motivators, a lot of people that are in that coalition of the willing. The thing that is gold in you, that's one of those things that you had to come into this industry with to start. That's what you're going to need the most now. Your ability to build your class from one person to 10 people to 15 people to 20 to 60.
Your ability to get clients.
Your ability
off the floor.
Your ability to make a relationship with those clients and use your network. Right now, critical. You have that training. Get back to the training. Make sure that you understand that just because you don't have that brick and mortar building, or you don't have that shiny label that's behind you, or anybody that was really just kind of mining your minerals, not reinvesting back into you, make sure that you know that your training still existed well after those things stop. And now how do we move that forward? That's what my biggest hope was from that, and that's why I tried to take that and, just like any piece of information right now, trying to utilize it and amplify it any way, shape, or form, because this is part of my training too. A lot of people are trying to get on these things right here and amplify messages that they didn't really grapple with just yet, and it's okay, but this is what the training was for. We got a back catalog, 100-something things telling you how to get this done off the strength. Now more than ever, we're trying to lift that, raise that bar, find a new thing, make sure that you feel good taking on the new road ahead, because nobody knows what it looks like. So getting comfortable in that discomfort, but also going back to your training.
Put a bow on that, brother, because that is through. It's a medium rare steak right there. That's some good meat.
There we go. I don't know what Kyle talking about. Good meat to me is always going to be something that we're going to have to really reevaluate our relationship at this point.
Listen, man, what I'm trying to say is that was food for thought, good man.
Okay, all right. I'm leaving that in then.
That was food for thought for the good people out
All
there.
right, man. Well, since we talked about this food for thought and we're taking all of our best of intentions with the good people, anything that you're looking forward to coming up upcoming week?
I'm looking forward to getting more content out to the people.
All right, we got to step this content game up too. And I also should say that, in that content style and scheduling, we might have slipped a little bit on a couple of the consistency aspects of it, but still
But
giving
we
you two a
still
week.
going.
Still giving you 2 straws, still going forward, but I'm also allowing for some space for that uncertainty to happen. Well, you got to fulfill that same cup, right? We can't be just pouring this out of an empty cup because it's never going to be the same. So we're looking forward to coming into next week with more content. Looking forward to coming in with different ways to be creative and inspirational as we come through here and really testing the waters, because we are getting some good feedback, man. People like these stretched out segments. People like the different directions that we're going into. So we got to make sure that we hold each other accountable. And everybody that's a part of this banner that is Off the Strength, as we start to elevate this a little bit higher, bring more people underneath this canopy that we're trying to build out here, the voice of wellness culture, will be broadcasted out live, forward, and even more in stereo as we go forward from here.
The revolution will not be televised.
Damn sure getting podcasted though. God
You
damn
know,
it.
speaking of time, some might say that we are a week behind. Y'all just a week late.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Never
So-
on schedule, always on time. Off the strength.
There you go, brother. There it is.
Exactly, my man. Once again, it's been another fantastic episode of Off the Strength. I'm a trainer called Tony.
I am KR Jones.
Shout out to Corey. Shout out to Troy. Peace and much love to y'all. Until next time, we'll see you soon.